Welcome, and to begin with, I would just very quickly introduce myself. My name is Kent Skovgaard in Danish, Skovgaard I think in English, and I've been working with a lot of different stuff, but mostly Citrix and Citrix related stuff in the last many years. I don't know, Alex actually removed the Twitter link on the presentation program, maybe because he doesn't like me standing with a guitar, I don't know, but sorry Alex, I will take it off. So the agenda here, and this is really, I've been struggling a lot because this is something that is kind of hard to do in a short time. So you might find that I'm rushing a little bit. I hope it's not too bad. You can always come and discuss some of the things with me later if you want, and we can go through some of the demos in more details. And also some of the slides will be with maybe too much text. My intention is not to read everything, but maybe later when it's recorded or whatever, you get the slides from me or whatever, then you can maybe take some time to study it. The slides have been developed through some training as well, so some of it is a little more detailed than it should be today. So what I'm going to discuss today, which is important I think, is what is actually happening from a network perspective. When you put the NetScaler with more than one interface on the network, and I'm not sort of I'm talking about every types of NetScaler here. I'm talking about the STX, the NDX, and also the DPX, because they all got some network implementations and they all act the same way. They have a little different options, of course, but yeah. So then a quick security discussion, which is the security could be a topic in itself, so I'm not going in depth to that, but just cast out a few thoughts about that. Then I'll quickly go through what is NetScaler IP, SNIPs and MIPs, and if you guys already know it by heart and this is really trivial, then we might just skip that. Basics of the NetScaler, I will show you quickly how it's actually behaving when you put it in multi-arm mode, in this case a 2-arm mode, and put a couple of IP addresses, 3 IP addresses to be exact, on it. Then I will show how this can be done to segment the network with in a way so that the device is behaving so you do not get enemies with the network guys at the customer's side. Then I'll discuss routing a little bit, and policy-based routing, which is a routing feature which you can get if you have the right licensing on the NetScaler. Then I'll talk about something called MAC-based forwarding and a little VLANs and VLAN, very short. And then some HA traffic, heartbeat traffic, and custom cases. So now you know why we are really busy. We don't have that much time. Let's start. So how many here have implemented a NetScaler in 1-arm mode? Okay. 1-arm mode is really nice because it's easy to set up. You don't have all those problems that I'm discussing today, most of them anyway. And from a security perspective, if the company policy is like this, all traffic that are traversing security zones must pass through the firewall, which is not uncommon, then this is the right way to do it. But of course, if you do stuff like load balancing, instead of VPN NetScaler gateway, I could have a lot of slides about all the features and what I just said is simple. But if the company wants to use the NetScaler for something really, I mean, for instance, for load balancing of IPC traffic on exchange service, something like that. Then you get the problem that, or you can say, maybe it's not a problem, I see it as a problem, that you're traversing the firewall from the inside network to get a load balancing service that are actually load balancing things that are also on the internal network, or maybe it's internal network. So you are actually utilizing the network, the firewall, more than you actually could do if you do it different. So the traditional way of doing 2-arm modes, which was maybe 10 years ago or something like that, you took all your services, your servers and services, put on a special DMC, or maybe more than one DMC, and then you would change their default gateway to be the NetScalers, and then you would let the traffic flow this way. This is, you have the same problem that you're traversing the firewall, you have to change stuff. So today, most people will actually want to do it like you have one network interface on the DMC and one network interface on the internal network. Maybe more than that, but for simplicity, I just chose the 2-arm mode here. Okay. So no new IPs for the servers. They don't actually. They are not aware that they are load balanced. They just get some connection from the NetScaler. It's of course they are free modes. We're talking here, and also you can do services on the internal network interface, so that internal clients will not traverse the firewall, and you can do service from the outside on the DMC for another one, and in that way you can actually spare the traversal of the firewall. Is everybody with me to this point? Yes? Okay.
This is not routed construction anymore.
Sorry?
This is not routed construction. So the NetScaler is not routing traffic.
Yeah, it is actually.
It
can do, but let me show.
Okay.
No, please, but yeah, maybe you can save your question a little bit. So the security discussion I wanted to just very quickly show out is that when you do more than 1-arm mode, it's very, very important, and this is the whole point of doing this session. It's very important you really think about security, because you are actually bypassing in some way the firewall. Because you have a device that could potentially, and I'll show later, can actually also do traffic. And of course it's a proxy, so it needs to do that. I mean, if it's a 2-arm mode, it needs to traverse and go inside and do some stuff. Use tools to check security. There's a lot of different things you can do. You could put SELs on the NetScaler. There's a lot of blogs and descriptions, white papers out there explaining and showing how you can actually harden your NetScaler. That is very, very important. You can also do some. That's in Denmark right now. Every customer is scanning for SSL weaknesses. Have you had the same experience? Yeah. So that's great, of course, but there are other problems than that. But right now, this is really what everybody's talking about, right? Test is Citrix Cloud. You can upload a support bundle to. You don't need to have a problem with the NetScaler to do it, but the test will actually give you a nice report, also giving some advice on the optimization of your security on the NetScaler. Also with ciphers and stuff, with SSL and stuff. Okay? And of course the dialogue is important. Always remember to talk to the network and security guys and explain how this works and agree with them. This is the way that we agree with each other that this should work, and maybe also let them test it afterwards. And always remember the bypassing that I said. Fine? Yes? Okay, quickly. Does everybody here, how many really know what is SNIP and VIP and NetScaler IPs? Okay, that's not everybody, so I'll just quickly go through it. So the NetScaler IP is a unique IP on every NetScaler. It's used for management. The subnet IP is for outgoing traffic, and you would always do a SNIP for every subnet that the NetScaler has been put on. Okay. By default, how many people here know what our broadcast is? Okay, great. So by default, and I'll show the demo in a second about that shows this. By default, when you put multiple IP addresses on a NetScaler, it will broadcast everything on every interface. So you could imagine what problems could get out of that, right? The mapped IP is a legacy way that's not used a lot anymore. So use SNIP. VIP is a virtual IP, which is a service. You can use IP. This is incoming traffic, incoming request for services, and it's bound to specific services. Okay. Then, quick security advice: when you do those IP addresses. Some is by default enabled, some is not, but all the IPs can be used for management traffic of the NetScaler, and this is also a security issue you need to be aware of. So only enable management when you really want to do management, okay? There are some modes that I don't think we have time to go in depth with that, but out of the box as standard, the NetScaler will use its own subnet IP when it does proxy. And this is a good thing because it can then optimize share the use of resources across different clients, which means you can do things like multiplexing here. So multiplexing is really great because you save resources. So every person from the outside is not going to have so many connections to the services that you would if you didn't have a NetScaler, because it can share them, okay? Use source IP is something you would use if it's very urgent. For a security standpoint, for instance, that you have the client IP recorded as a source IP, for instance. The problem with that is that when it's a client IP that is coming to the resource on the internal network, then the resource needs to know how to route it back, and this can give some problems. So normally you would actually have the NetScaler as a default gateway, the SNIP address in this case, as a default gateway, so that the traffic can flow. Okay? Right. This is really too much. I'll be, yeah. This number 6 is maybe important. You add a SNIP, a static route will be automatically added. So if you look at the route table, you actually get routes for every single interface. Now telling you that all communication to that specific subnet will go through that SNIP. And this is when the problem actually arises when we're showing it. Okay. SNIP can be used for management as well. If you always want to be on if you're actually passive set up, you can always go to the active interface. To the active NetScaler through the SNIP. And that way you will not need to remember what is the active at the moment, you will always go to the active. I think you said it in your system. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. Move on. So this is, you know this one? I'll not go through all the details here, but very shortly. We are moving on this layer today. We could move on all the other layers. There's been a lot of other sessions moving on the other layers, but this is network, so this is where we're going. We are talking about MAC addresses, we are talking about IP addresses, okay? So, very quickly, this is how it works. The ARP broadcast, the ARP request, you send out a request and you get a response back, okay? This is the package, and when you go to another network, you are actually, it's encapsulated in the IP traffic, of course, but the destination MAC address will be changed by the router and stuff like that. This is just basic stuff. Just wanted to sum up, okay? So I've done a demo setup I want to show you, where I did an implementation of the new NetScaler firmware and gave it an IP address. Then in my sensor, in our sensor environment, I had a couple of virtual Windows machines on each subnet, given a static IP on that particular subnet, and using that to show you how it behaves. The demo setup is like this. So you have, as I said, a couple of Windows machines, and you have NetScaler in 2-arm mode with a management IP on the DMC2 and a subnet IP for that subnet and a subnet IP for the DMC3 subnet. Right? Yeah, so let's move on to the demo. So I have an ARP request application that I put on both machines, and I just quickly want to show you. Oh, I think we do that too. Just a second. Let's see. Just a second. I need to be sure that it's the right one we are looking at. So you see we have interfaces here, as I explained, and the IP addresses here, okay? Yeah, that's just one. Let's go. So I do a ARP request for the IP address on the same subnet, and I give the MAC address from the NetScaler MAC. It starts with 5E. This is one of the interfaces. Get the same down there. But it's 8E instead, because that's the name of that. But what happens when I change to the other subnet, to the other SNIP that NetScaler, I switch the broadcast now, I still get a response back with the same MAC address. That's not what a computer normally does, right? Okay. So that's a problem we need to deal with. So what can be done? Does anybody have a suggestion for that?
One hour.
I'm not allowed to
One
speak
hour
on this year.
1 hour more. Yeah, that could be a way of solving it. But if
Yeah, that's what we did.
customer wants this, then we use it. Yeah. So, yeah, as you can see, come on.
You could use VLANs, you could use traffic image, you could use folder.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways to get around it, but yeah.
But in this particular case, I will show you how to use the VLAN that you mentioned. So, as we just saw, the NetScaler will do ARP request response based on all requests that exist. So we need to isolate the networks, and this is what I'll show you now. So I'm going to the NetScaler administration web interface. I'm going to add another VLAN, but this is a virtual appliance, so I don't want to tag it. I just add it, and I call it, of course, something that's easy to recognize. I bind it to interface 2, and I bind it to the SNIP that is for that particular security zone. Okay. And then I click OK, and then I show you how the Windows machines will actually behave now. So they still do what they're supposed to on their own subnet, of course, but now let's see what happens when you do broadcast for other addresses that doesn't belong on that particular subnet. You get nothing. And this 0 is just, in this particular application, showing that you don't get an answer. So now we have something that works more than we would expect also from a computer and stuff we're used to, right? Any questions about that? No? Okay. So now we did bind stuff so that we are getting the proper responses. This is quite simple to sort of see. Yes, so this is great, but then we now did some good stuff. We segmented the networks, fine, that's great. But then, what about routing? Oh, what is this? If you deploy a NetScaler in just in default settings with 2 NICs, then it will actually be a router. Did you know that? How many knew that? Okay. And this is not very good if you don't want to use it as a router, which I have not met a lot of people who want that. So maybe, in my opinion, this should not be a default setting, but that's another story, right? You can use pulse-based routing, as I'll mention later, and you can of course do static routes and fill out routes if you have more than one internet connection or something more advanced. Pulse-based routing is looking like this. In the clip, you could also do it in the GUI, of course, as I will show you in a minute. Then you have something called MAC-based forwarding. Anybody can answer me what's this? Yeah. Anyone want to explain?
Ask if I can also.
Yeah, the MAC-based forwarding is that the NetScaler, when it receives a package, will send the reply out the same interface that it received the package on.
Yes. So it will actually.
It's the simple solution for 2-hour mode when you don't want
to
yeah. It's not pretty, but it
works.
works.
2-hour mode, you fucked up. And then you enable MAC-based forwarding. Everyone said it.
So I actually forgot to screen this, but you can hear me right. So
yeah.
I just forgot.
No, you need it for the recording.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
sorry. So yeah. So MAC-based forwarding will take proceedings over routing actually. So this means that the packets that come from a specific MAC address will also get the traffic returned to that specific MAC address. Okay. It can be used to make sure everything is flowing. And I have heard a lot of stuff like this is really bad and stuff like that until I was actually in a dialogue with some people who was used to using the F5, you might have heard of, which is a competitor to Citrix NetScaler. And they have something similar on the F5, and they was like, this is such a nice and great feature. Okay. I didn't hear that often on the NetScaler. Yeah, because we want to make sure that we handle all the traffic. So it's nice sometimes to get some other angles on stuff, right? So, but of course, if you use this, you can get a lot of trouble. I have talked to Michael Ruski, who was actually, he left for his flight. But he and I have planned on doing a little session on the next event, on the next retreat, about Hyper-V and NetScaler implementations, where this can be a real problem. But you can get more if you want to join that session. So this is the place where you put this layer 3 mode that I talked about, where it's routes. And I will show you what is happening when you put a Windows machine on. You saw the Windows machines on the that is on different subnets. I will now actually disable the firewall, the ICMP for the firewall, and then I will put the NetScaler as a default gateway and show that they are communicating. I think I'll speed it a little up because things are running time is running like crazy. So I disabled the stuff in the firewall, of course. So after disabling that, as you see, they will stop the process blocks. It's not rocket science. And now I'm going to change the default gateway to the NetScaler on both of those. Then it didn't work, And I was like, oh, my demo's not working. Anybody have a suggestion of what happens? You see that that dialog, Windows dialog, do you want to scan and stuff? What happens when you say no to that? You can see in a minute.
Windows Firewall.
Yes, Windows Firewall, exactly. So it really helps when you disable that. That's not a generic thing that I'm saying here, okay? But in this particular demo, it helps to show that point, okay? Yes. So now you see the traffic is flowing through the NetScaler, and now I'll show you in the end of this demo. I'll show you on the NetScaler. I'm disabling the other firewall as well.
What's that gibberish language?
Sorry?
What's that gibberish language?
Yeah, that's some really strange language. I actually had planned on putting a language back on because I wanted to be in English, but that's not. I didn't get the time for that. Sorry. So, but you get the point, I think. Okay. So now I'm going to disable the layer 3 forwarding here, and as you can see, after that, it'll stop serving those machines as well. Okay. Yes? Right. So, right now I can see that I need to speed up because I really want to share with you some of the thoughts that we had about a couple of custom cases. And this means that I'll be telling you something now that I'm not showing you or proving to you. You can ask me later if you want to see the thing. Okay? Is that okay? Great. So, I'm going to, I was planning on showing you the asynchronous routing because now we disabled the routing for other IP addresses than the NetScaler's own, but it's still routing its own addresses. So what I was planning on showing here was if a machine on DMC3 is pinging the SNIP interface on DMC2, it will still route through the NetScaler because it's its own address, and this is the default behavior. Okay, so this means that I can ping in both directions, which would not normally work because I don't have one default gateway, right? So how? I mean, and I disabled the stuff. So so this is important, and it's not a problem when you ping, but it's a problem when you get to more rich programs on the other layers. So I was showing it, planning on showing it, that a HTTP site was that I was on DMC3 and trying to show the NetScaler interface, NetScaler management interface on DMC2, and showing that this would not work. And this doesn't work because this firewall that I have listed up, it's a WatchGuard, but it could be a lot of other brands we've got. Most serious firewalls will block this traffic, right? So it sees you got an IP packet through, and you get the IP packet back through the NetScaler, so it will do asynchronous routing. This is not great. So the next time you get a packet, the firewall will say, I know I talked to you, but I never saw the return, so you cannot go through. Okay? Yeah. VLAN tagging, we'll skip that. We'll take that another time. NSVLAN. Does anybody here know what an NSVLAN is? Okay, I can quickly mention it. NSVLAN is a VLAN specifically made when you create the NetScaler. It's used for the management, and you can change it. Most people will change it in the command line, bind it to a specific interface. And this is something that's quite important to know, because again, the NetScaler management will when you segment the VLANs, it will be bound to a VLAN. And this is per default VLAN 1. You cannot change that in the GUI. You need a command line to do it, and you need reboots to do it. Okay. Yeah. So HA traffic. When you have two NetScalers in an HA setup, you would want it to send some information to the passive part, and that will per default flow through this NSVLAN that I mentioned before, from NetScaler IP to NetScaler IP. This includes synchronization, and if you do a command, also if you do something in the GUI, it will be converted to a command in the command line. If you see the log, you can see that, right? So this will be propagated to the secondary so that they are always synced on. Also some session information, depending on what time service you're load balancing, will go to the other NetScaler, because if you fail over, you want as many of the user sessions to be as close to the original NetScaler as possible. Okay? Yeah. HA heartbeat is slightly different. This is the mechanism for checking if there's something wrong that will provoke the NetScaler to fail over to the other one. This is also very important to set up correct, because if you have an interface that fails, it will fail over. This can actually be changed to another VLAN, and I'll explain that later. It can be tagged or non-tagged, depending on. It's a slightly advanced setup, but you can tag everything on a NetScaler. Yeah, most people change this in that line. Yes, so this demo I planned here, which I'm not have the time for either, is to show how you can create a specific VLAN, and this is very important now. Don't bind any SNIP addresses to it. Then you won't be able to choose it for HA traffic. Okay, that's very important. But if you don't bind that address, you can use it. And I asked Citrix, this is great, but what is happening? And they said to me, it's layer 2 traffic. Okay, layer 2 traffic, but I mean, you need to go to layer 3 to sort of communicate with different devices. And I did a Wireshark trace on this specific interface that I bound this communication to, and it turned out that it's actually NetScaler IP that are traversing this. Although you already have that, you could have that on another interface. So it's not very nice. What could be really great was that if you could bind specific IP subnets to that. Some customers doesn't like that. They have maybe a specific, if they are big customers, they have a specific VLAN for that kind of traffic, and they wanted to have the same subnet as that traffic is supposed to have. Yeah, but that is how it works, but you can do it. Yeah, heartbeat traffic, HA monitoring, that one I talked about, you can disable per interface. Yeah. Do you know what a feature is? In Danish, it's not a bad thing. It is a bad thing. You can ask me afterwards what it means. Yes, I'm too embarrassed to say it. But on a NetScaler, it means that you can. I mean, it's very important to consider how many of my link interfaces do I want to be able to detect that will fail before I do this failover to the. But don't do a failover without reason, right? Because it will always give a little noise. So why do it? So a failover interface is a way of sort of showing this is a group of interfaces. If all of those are down, I will need a failover. Yeah, custom cases. Very quickly, the first one is about a very secure installation in Denmark, where they wanted the two different components of the mobile to be also on different subnets. And they had the same problem that the NetScaler was routing stuff back because they were doing a VIP load balancing of the FC, of the mobile server, which was accessed by the FC, and asynchronous routing was happening, and the firewall was blocking. The solution here was to enable. They had enterprise licenses, so we could safely enable use policy-based routing to force the traffic to go properly through the gateway, through the firewall, and then things were starting to work. So this is a good thing. If you don't have enterprise feature, then the only way you can actually make this work is MacBase 4.1. But this is a global setting, which is not really nice.
You could also use traffic domains.
Yes, you could use traffic domains.
No.
But then you
could, but you would have to use the NetScaler gateway in traffic domain 0 because it lives there. But you could use a traffic domain for the other stuff.
Yeah, that's right. But also the management traffic will be.
Yeah, that would be in traffic domain 0 also.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not saying it's the ideal, but policy-based routing, I know a lot of firewall administrators that dislike policy-based routing in their network because it's easy to break stuff.
I think that the official stuff we got from TTIC said that if you want to do a micro VPN on a mobile solution, we cannot use traffic domains. But
I
it
have
sounds like
customer.
you've done it, so
I have done it at a customer where we
it's
had to
always
put a lot of
great.
stuff in traffic domain 0 and then do some
That's great.
internal in
Yes.
a traffic domain.
We use net profiles.
Yeah, but the problem with net profiles is that you're still a slave to the routing. You only have one routing table. So if you fuck up in routing, you will have traffic going in a way that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. But it's a good way of understanding the problem in a case like this, right? So, yeah. Then the other one, I will run to the next one. We have 5 minutes left. So this was a customer who was used to have a what do you call it, the competitors of NetScaler 5, what do you call it?
5?
F5, yes, F5. And they were used to a complete separation, at least they told me. I don't know the F5 that well, but I believe them. They said that they are completely isolated, so you have the management network is completely isolated from the data production network, whatever you call it. And they like that, and they also, because of that, they had a slave on the management traffic that was 48 hours, and they didn't want to wait 48 hours to get things to work, so they needed to make sure that they could actually pull the plug on the NetScaler's management. It was a physical NetScaler on a NetScaler management interface without anything getting disturbed, and they could still manage stuff. So that was, that was something that I was some reseller asked me to help with. So we did some work on it, and I think I'll just very quickly go to the solution. So the solution. The solution was the final design was this. It's not a very nice drawing, but I did my best. So the ordinary copper NICs was with NetScaler IPs here, and they had LSCP with a fiber channel on 10 gig setup, I think 8 or 10, and then they had multiple tag VLANs on those interfaces, and of course with a redundant setup. That was the Slayer talked about. So they wanted to make sure if they pulled the plug here, nothing was failing. So policy-based routing was the solution of making the traffic flow properly. That was also a demand they had, which is understandable, of course. And then the heartbeat was disabled on on those particular management interfaces that were bound to the NetScaler IP. And then HA-Sync was created on a specific tag VLAN in this case that was meant to do stuff like that. And with no attachment, of course, because, as I mentioned. And this was also where I sniffed the traffic and saw that it was NetScaler IP in action. And this particular setup was made, and the customer did a test where he shut down the port on the switch to see what happened. And the test showed that everything was working, command propagation was working, HA-Sync was working, no failover was tried. The only drawback was that they needed to use the special long ports for management access when they, in that time where they waited this slate to be met, so they could get the interface up and running again. We had a little talk about if they wanted to change management, as also you mentioned, to a SNIP, because that was a way of moving this to the production network. But they didn't want that. They thought this was an okay solution. But in my opinion, that could be maybe even greater, because of course they still needed the long port for access to the secondary device. Yes? That was the goodies we don't have time for, so I would say it's time for any questions.
Yeah, you can have.
Oh. Yes?
Have you looked in admin petition?
Yes, I looked into it and I find it really, really great. I think this is what we've been waiting for, and I'm very close to 100% sure that this has also been made to do things in an enterprise way, like GF5 do. So, but I'm looking very much forward to see more. I think a lot of consultants are waiting for it to maybe see it in action and mature a little bit, but it seems really promising.
Because one of the issues I have with the NetScaler is that even if you do VLAN tagging or whatever, as long as you have one routing table, it's a slave to that routing table.
Yes.
So then there's MAC-based forwarding, but we need something with two routing tables like traffic domains or admin partitions, but traffic domains is limited because we can't use all the services, but admin partition looks very promising.
Admin partitions,
if you cannot afford an SDX.
Exactly. Admin partitions could be a really great topic for another session.
Yeah, just one point for admin partitions. If you're using NetScaler SDX, don't use admin partitions because they won't work. You will get really in trouble with authenticating users. So it's really,
Sadly, I don't have that many customers running SDX. And there's also the issue with the when you jump into command line, it's one big one.
If you have running NetScaler SDX and with the admin partitions, you log in with an admin user, you don't have any rights to upload license files, to configure monitors, to configure SSL certificates, because you don't have permission on the folders.
Yeah, but I'm guessing if you're running SDX, you wouldn't need separate. I mean, the case for separate routing tables wouldn't be that big, maybe, because you could deploy a new.
I've got a customer running about 30 or 40 DMZs.
Oh, so yeah, you want different.
And this is why he asked me, would it be possible to have admin partitions on SDX? But we tried it.
So I've seen a demo from Citrix showing that it's actually working. So it's very interesting to hear your experience. So I think we should follow the blogs and discussion around this, because I'm positive that from Citrix point of view they need this to be also used on SDX, right?
Yeah, because they have it on VF5. So
yeah, it's a way you can slice really.
Yeah,
I mean, nicely. Any other questions?
You played with NetScaler on AWS.
That's all?
Have you played with NetScaler on AWS?
Not very much. Not very much. But I find it interesting that you can get one there. I heard that it's somehow limited in its features.
Yeah, it's extremely strange to operate NetScaler without layer 2, but payloads get to be very, very long. Okay. API to that addresses.
You should do a session on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.